What I'll say is when we carry the ball, we look dangerous.
Yeah.
When we shift it quickly, we look dangerous. It's when players are stuck in their positions
Yeah.
and they're just passing it side to side. That's when you don't break teams down. But when Clara shifts it, Bielek shifts it when he's on the pitch. When our players carry it forward, we look dangerous. And that's when, in my opinion, the goal started to come. So welcome back to BCFC Royal Blue. And on Tuesday evening, Birmingham City beat Leyton Orient 2-0 in what looked like it was going to be a frustrating game in which the ball just wasn't falling for us and we just couldn't put the ball in the net. But thankfully, as Chris Davies puts it, pounding the rock, we managed to get there, we broke them down and we come away with all 3 points and things are looking very good. So Dad, Birmingham City 2, Leyton Orient 0, what were your thoughts on the game?
It was a weird game. I think a lot of Blues fans going into that game were expecting a really, really tough challenge from Leyton Orient based upon their form and their league position. And obviously the circumstances that contributed to that not happening. But it's a game that I didn't envisage that I would be that relaxed in. I thought it might be a tight game, which it sort of was in a way, actually. But that it was a game that wasn't going to separate the teams by very, very much. But actually, as it turned out, we completely dominated the game, completely. We'll talk about them having a player sent off early on, which clearly influenced the whole thing.
Did, yeah.
But it was a game that that I think if we felt that we could get 3 points from that against a team that is in the playoff positions, it would set us up nicely now for the Wycombe game and beyond.
I think what surprised me, I wouldn't say the most, but what did surprise me a lot was when they did get a player sent off, he went really defensive.
Yeah.
I don't know. I just thought Richie Wellens, the way he sets his team up, they do go at you. They can shift the ball quickly. They do go wide. I thought he might have still tried to have a go, but it almost felt like even after 12, 15 minutes, I wouldn't go so far as park the bus, but they put 2 banks of men in, didn't they? I mean, it kind of went to the low block immediately, didn't it? And Chris Davies referred to this, Dad, in his post-match interview, that we've got very good at breaking down the low block, but they went very defensive, didn't they?
But did you watch Richie Wellens' post-match interview?
Yeah,
because he almost suggested, didn't say this exactly, but he almost suggested that when their player got sent off, that he decided to effectively save his players because they've got a really important game against Charlton next, haven't they? Which is obviously they're right next to each other in the league, and I think they might be on the same points, and it's a big playoff. It's almost as he didn't say it exactly, but it's almost said, well, actually, I'll give up on this game now. I'm going to save my players, save my best players, and he did mention about managing players. So obviously his mentality changed when the sending off actually occurred. A question for you, Matt. Was you surprised by the Blue starting lineup?
Yeah, I was. Yeah, I thought. After the Reading game, Dad, and we talked about this in the post-match interview, and a lot of Blues fans agreed with this, we thought we might have seen a bit more rotation, wouldn't we?
Exactly.
He effectively picked the same starting 11, but I think this, to me, Dad, shows how bad the Reading pitch was because the players didn't look as shattered against Leyton Orient as they did against Reading. It was almost like the pitch had a knock-on effect even further to their kind of fatigue, let's say. I mean, there are definitely some tired legs. I mean, even in the Orient game, Dad, there was some stray passes, wasn't there? There was some poor decision-making, which comes down to tired legs, tired minds. Yeah. But it wasn't as bad as the Reading game. And it just shows how important the pitch is. But coming back to your original question, I was surprised to not see any rotation. Maybe was there any rotation actually?
Well, there weren't rotation as such. The players that came in were Taylor Gardner-Hickman and Alfie May came to start, but they were just replacing injured players. So obviously they replaced Keshi Anderson and Lyndon Dykes. Obviously Scott Wright was starting as also against Reading, but he wasn't in the squad. And Chris Davies said he'd be out for the rest of the season. And also, we saw Yuki come back on the bench, which we sort of expected to see. Alphonse Samstead, he was in the on the bench for the first time. Emil Hansen started on the bench again, but we knew he'd started on the bench also against Reading. And we had Bielek and Hanley and Luke Harris and Bailey Pickett-Farrell. So, I think Chris Davies had, surprised us all really by picking that particular starting line. We had quite an interesting conversation, didn't we, in the pre-match video about the likely rotation that we expected to see. But he surprised us all. And actually, what you can't criticise, and now that the match is over, looking back, the players that played in that game, they didn't look like you haven't already mentioned it really. They didn't really look overly fatigued. There was some tired legs out there.
Look at Laird, Dad, prime example. Against Reading, in my opinion, he looked absolutely shattered, like he was about to collapse in the second half. But he was man of the match against Leyton Orient. He was absolutely outstanding. It just shows these professional players have got good fitness levels. The backroom staff, whichever term you want to use, they know what they're doing. They know how to manage, ligaments, muscles, the human body to that extent. And you got to trust them, haven't you, to some extent as well. I mean, we all would like to see a bit of rotation just to not stop jaded performances. We saw it against Charlton, especially. We saw it against Reading. Shrewsbury comes to mind as well. So we want to avoid that at all costs. But clearly, the physios and
they know better.
Exactly.
They know better. I thought that Orient played a strong team as well at the start of the game. They had all their big hitters. We know that Orient had issues in relation to injuries in their defence, particularly centre backs.
Yeah.
So, but they played in their team. They still had the likes of Donnelly. They still had Kalman. On the bench, they had no, not even on the bench. Aguirre as well. He's quite a nippy player normally. So their big players were there, and I think that they were set up. I think Richie Valens suggested that he wanted to see how far they progressed, but clearly the sending off changed everything, and we'll come on to that in a minute because there have been some interesting conflicts of opinions on that from both managers. In terms of some, one thought it was a definite sending off, another thought it wasn't.
We're a Blues podcast, Dad, so we're going to give the Blues perspective. I'm sure Orient fans are going to be in the comments. I have no doubt this is one of those situations where 99% of Blues fans will say it was a red and 99% of Orient fans will say no way. It's just football, isn't it? You're always going to back the opposite decision.
Yeah, just before we talk about sending off, actually, Matt, there was one chance that we had. Ethan Laird, this is really early in the game, broke down the right-hand side and the ball pinged about a little bit. It fell to him and he actually shot it. It wasn't actually close, but I think he didn't have any curl on it. He went straight and wide. So we were trying and making chances at the beginning.
Yeah, definitely.
And then the sending off was what really influenced and changed the game, I thought.
Well, in the moment, because we sit in the Tilton towards the corner flag, obviously it was over the complete opposite side of the pitch, weren't it? And it looked naughty. It looked like a nasty challenge. But if I'm honest, in the moment where we were sitting, it didn't really look like a red. It just looked like a late challenge, definitely a yellow. But, a red obviously has to be quite cynical. But when I got back in and saw the replays and, a lot of people blame VAR for freeze frames because, it looks a lot more dramatic than what it actually is. But actually, when you look it back, his foot goes over the ball, his studs are showing. It's a dangerous challenge.
But both his feet are off the floor.
It's a dangerous challenge.
If that makes contact with any player, or what, or anybody, you're breaking legs.
Yeah.
That to me was a definite record. And that's not me being... But if I was looking at as a neutral, looking at that, I would think that would be given. Chris Davies said, if this was the Premier League and that had gone to VAR, that would definitely be in red. Richie Wellens felt it wasn't.
No.
And this is what frustrates me because you can't not look at that and see both his legs off the ground lunging in towards a player, and it literally is leg breakers. So I don't know how. If that was a Blues player doing that, I would still have agreed that would have been a red card.
Yeah, agreed. Yeah,
because his feet were actually off the ground. Both of his feet were actually off the ground. So I don't know what the discussion is with that. I mean, to me, that is a clear red.
I agree. I think it is a red, Dad. But I've seen worse challenge not punished. I've seen worse challenges than that not punished. But again, I'm just making a point that the consistency in the refereeing is poor, isn't it?
Welcome to League One.
But look at Awata at Huddersfield.
Yeah.
Again, it looked like a leg breaker. He didn't. I think he might have got a yellow, but it was a clear red. So I think this is one of those scenarios from a Blues perspective. And by the way, if Orient fans are watching, I know they gave the referee a lot of stick. We've had awful referees from week to week. The standard at this level is truly, truly shocking. But for me, it was a red card. But it still shows the inconsistency in the refereeing at this level.
Yeah, Richard Wallen suggested that they should have appointed a Premier League referee for this game. He said there wasn't many Premier League games. This is a big game, big club, big crowd. But at the end of the day, the League One referees are there to referee at that level. And I think this referee got this one right. And a lot of people, Orient fans, might be looking and think, well, of course you're going to say that. You're a Blues fan. But I've honestly looked back and back and back at that challenge. And when you see both of he loses the ball first and his momentum carries on, and then he lunges with both feet. So the momentum takes him into Awata, and how Awata wasn't seriously injured I think is just pure fluke. It was a red card. It did send him off. But the strange thing that happened after that, this is what we're going back to what we just spoke about a few seconds about, Richie Wellens. In order to try and balance his team out, he brought on left-back Jaden Sweeney. But it was Curry, by the way, that got sent off. Jaden Sweeney came on, who was a left-back, because Curry was a left-back. And he also took off Charlie Kalman. Now, I found that strange at the time. I'm thinking, okay, so you've gone down to 10 men, but you're only 12 minutes into a game and you've took off your top striker.
Yeah.
And that crossed my mind. He's done that. He's trying to save him for Charlton.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And I thought, so he's clearly almost admitting that they're going to try and sort of park the bus and try and get something out of the game, but they weren't going to be too progressive going forward. So did you find that sub strange?
Well, it almost looked like they set up in two banks, didn't it? And in the second half especially, Dad, we were looking at the Orient lineup. I know it wasn't this, but it quite literally looked like they had 7 at the back because they were that deep and they were that defensive. They really did look like they had a lot of men behind the ball.
Well, after those substitutions, it almost became a 5-3-1.
Yeah.
Because it's obviously, defence first, isn't it? But that changed the game, and we, from that point onwards, really, we were completely dominant.
Also, Dad, we saw Charlie Kalman go off. I don't know his name, but their number 44 go off. He's a good player. And in the second half, Jamie Donnelly, it was almost like he was taking the stars off one by one. And as a Blues fan, you're kind of rolling your hands together, aren't you? Thinking, where's he going with this? Because say Charlie Kalman's their top goal scorer, Donnelly's their big playmaker. I don't know if I be so dramatic as to say, throwing the game out, but it is quite literally, you got to question those decisions. I mean, we're not Orient fans, so we don't know the squad. We don't know Richie Wellens that well. Clearly, he must have had a theory behind what he was doing. But from a Blues fan, I was like, Kalman's off, Donnelly's off. This is absolutely fantastic.
Makande was their number 44.
Okay, he's a good player.
Yeah, but I was surprised when they took Aguiar off as well, isn't it? Agaye, whatever his name is, because I was impressed with him when they played us right at the beginning of the season. Really, really fast, nippy player, but he went off as well, and you just felt that clearly that Richie Wellens felt that they needed to save his players for a much more what he would classify as an important game. Not complaining though, if I'm honest.
Well, but before we get onto the goal, Dags, I guess that's the next bit of action. What I will say is the first half for me, and by the way, this isn't a negative, I'm not knocking it, it was just frustrating. It just felt like one of those games in the first half where we could have been playing for 4 days, we wouldn't have scored. It just wasn't dropping for us.
Yep.
Alfie May hit the bar.
Before that,
I think Dow hit the post as well. There was quite a few chances that we had.
Well, we'd had. I mean, Gardner-Hickman, reacted to I think it was an Awata shot.
I thought that was Dow. Okay, so it was Taylor Gardner-Hickman, was it?
First off, reacted to basically the goalkeeper spilled it. It wasn't. It was an Awata long shot, I think. The goalkeeper spilled it, and then Taylor Gardner-Hickman reacted, and somehow their goalkeeper got up in terms of the second challenge and managed to knock Gardner-Hickman's shot onto the post.
Yes,
and then it was the Alfie May chance afterwards, where you saw looping a shot. It bounced, wasn't it, back off the crossbar just before half time, and and at that point we're thinking
it's not going to happen. Is it?
This one is going to be one of them games, when you literally just completely pound a team and it just isn't going to go in. So it was 0-0 at half time. We were. I wouldn't say we were frustrated, but I think on the basis that they'd gone down to 10 men early on, and we still were 0-0 at half time. I think there was a level of we should have been in the lead here.
It did feel frustrating because it was at moments this season the Blues are not finishing teams off. We should have been 2 or 3 up at half time. We didn't quite take those chances. And you knew for a fact if we wouldn't have scored by about 60, 70 minutes, the time wasting goes on, the ball gets kicked out, the players start rolling around. So in my opinion, when I was sitting in the tilt and I thought to myself, we've got to get a goal soon because we're going to start getting the clock ran down, and it's so frustrating to play against because teams do it well against us, don't they? They just kill the momentum of the game. Yeah. And we back ourselves on speed, momentum, and going at teams and suffocating them. But what I will say, Dad, first half and second half, I think it highlighted how important our fit wingers are because I think they did okay. Taylor Gardner-Hickman isn't a winger. He doesn't play on the wings, does he? He has played there this season, but it showed to me we were missing Keshi Anderson, Scott Wright, the pace, the directness, someone who can carry the ball, someone who can get a real good quality ball into the box. And just a little bit of frustration with that final third quality. Yeah. But overall, I'm not complaining. It was just an observation that if we want to kill teams off and really crank those goal numbers up, we need to be finishing these chances.
Yeah. And if you didn't know, what Matt's referring to is that Taylor Gardner-Hickman started on the left wing. We had Dowell on the right wing, and we had Williamson back in the number 10, didn't we? So there was a slight bit of a jig around there compared to the Reading game. But then we come on to the second half, Matt, and this is where we did score. And it was a relief, wasn't it?
It was.
It was
Laird again.
It was early on, 8 minutes in. Yeah,
fantastic.
Laird took it down on the right, and he actually sort of got beat his player, and it looked like he was pulled over.
It did, yeah.
And we were all screaming for a penalty. Then it was Dowell, I think, who then got the loose ball and crossed it to Taylor Gardner-Hickman, who tapped it into effectively an empty net.
And I think from an Orient perspective, Dad, you'll be disappointed in that goal because once Laird went over and Dowell put the ball in, it looked like they switched off, didn't it?
It did, because I thought they felt that there was going to be a penalty controversy, and they basically didn't carry on, did they? But we kept on playing because the ball banged loose. It went across, and then we kept alert, and Taylor Gardner-Hickman was there to.
I wonder what their problem was, Dad, because a few of the players went over to the lino. I don't know whether they were complaining about offside or a foul. A few of the Orient players seemed unhappy, and Richie Wellens in the post-match interview seemed unhappy.
They may. I think they're maybe complaining about Laird because he was, even though he was bundled over, he was physically getting the ball back in the first place. I mean, there's nothing in it from their perspective. No. I think they just conceded a goal and weren't happy.
Right. Okay.
But I mean, they would argue that maybe that Laird was a little bit physical or something. I don't know what their problem.
Got fouled.
Yeah, I know, but I think that before that, I think he actually got the ball back. And I think they might have felt.
You know what, Dad? That's a really good point. I love Laird's aggression because he's not the tallest of players. He's fast, he's direct when he went on his day, and he's physical.
Yeah.
He proper gets stuck in, and
he's turned into a real player.
He really is.
He really is.
He's turning into me. I think he's a high-end championship player at the moment.
Yeah, and he's still young as well. He could easily be Prem quality
in a couple of years.
Yeah, easy.
What if Laird improves his final delivery and gets more assists than he doesn't? Premier League player.
Yeah, he's like a style of players like an Ashley Cole, who was quite dynamic going down a wing and could put a cross in, but has also scored or chipped in with goals as well, and his supply was good. So he has got the potential to if he continues to improve, he's going to be some player. So we went 1-0 up, was all relieved. So I think we always felt that if we were to go 1-0 up, that it would be very hard for Orient to mount any form of combat because they didn't give anything really in terms of chances because they were penned back, weren't they?
Yeah.
But then we had another chance not long after. Alfie May should have scored. He went through on goal with the goal, but the goalkeeper made a really good save. So the goalkeeper came out to close him down and just managed to get a touch on it. That should have been 2-0. But then we did get the second goal with Ethan Laird.
Yeah,
a fantastic pass from Clara. I mean, it really a proper defence cutter, isn't it?
It was fantastic,
and it was a great finish as well because there's still work to do for Laird to do at that point. Yeah. Slots it in 2-0. We knew it was all over. We were relieved.
I was thrilled he scored in front of the Tilton as well.
And he was as well.
Yeah, it was nearly a sellout. The place was bouncing in terms of when the goal went in. And Laird, to experience that by the corner flag, because he was he's a bit of a jokester, isn't he, Laird? He was doing this sort of cocky walk as a joke after he'd scored. And I really like Laird. I think he seems like a right character behind the scenes. He's a good player. And I don't want it to get lost out. That ball from Clara, absolutely clinical. They didn't have a chance. He sliced it right through him. And also, did you notice this game, Dad? Clara was carrying the ball a bit more. You often talk about Bielek doing that, moving through the channels. He wasn't as aggressive as what Bielek would do, but he was bringing it a bit more.
I think we'll get that, Matt, as well from Neumann. From what I've seen, do you know when Neumann comes in the summer, he seems to do that a lot. But
what I'll say is, when we carry the ball, we look dangerous. When we shift it quickly, we look dangerous. It's when players are stuck in their positions and they're just passing it side to side. That's when you don't break teams down. But when Clara shifts it, Bielek shifts it when he's on the pitch. When our players carry it forward, we look dangerous, and that's when in my opinion, the goal started to come.
Yeah, because if you're a central defender or even any sort of member of the back line, and you do take or surge forward with the ball, you're breaking the line.
Exactly.
You're going into the space, and the other option is you go sideways. Mm-hmm. But going forward, you're literally taking a direct route, and that makes and puts their players out of position. Then.
But Blues this season, Dad, we have got stuck in side to side motions, haven't we? In fact,
we did last night.
Moments in the first half, we were going side. Me and you looked at each other and went, "We're going side to side again, didn't we?" And then, thankfully, as I said, when that goal went in, I felt like it kind of loosened it up a little bit and we kind of went at them a little bit more. But I'm wary of time. I think it was a well-deserved 3 points and we move on to Wycombe, Dad. And if we do beat Wycombe, that takes us, what is it? Would that be 15 points clear if we win our game in hand as well over them? So things are looking very good.
Yeah, so we're currently 9 points ahead with the game in hand. So if we beat them, we'll be 12 points ahead with the game in hand.
By the way, I'm not saying that it's a certain we're going to win that game. I'm just making an observation that things are looking very good at the top of the table, aren't they?
Yeah, they are. I mean, that game against Leyton Orient should have been 5 or 6-0 with the chances that we had. Hitting bars, missing chances and all that type of thing. I thought that, the Blues completely dominated the game. We had 77% possession of that game and 27 shots and 10 on target. Orient offered very little. I mean, I think they had 3 shots but none on target. And that, again, is because the way that Richie Wellens decided to change his team. And it's up to him what he does. We can only play what he does. And I think he was saving them for their next game. That means Blues now are unbeaten in 17.
Crazy,
in the league, 9 points clear of Wycombe with a game in hand, and we've only conceded 4 goals in those 17 games in the league.
20 clean sheets across all competitions.
Yeah,
crazy.
It is looking, increasingly good, and we keep saying if we beat this team, we beat them, and we keep beating them. Clearly, we've got a game which I think is probably the biggest game of the season, which is a home game against a team in second place. Yeah. Wycombe Wanderers coming up, and games are running out as well, so we're ticking off all these fixtures now where we're just picking up points. And if you look and analyse the teams near the top of the table as well, most of them have still got to play each other. Yeah. After Wycombe, we've played. I mean, we've got Bolton actually, which is the next highest team, and then every fixture we have left now is mid-table and below. Every game. So that's no guarantee, by the way. But what I'm saying is that
statistically,
the other teams are going to take points off each other.
Exactly.
Whereas we're not in those games anymore after this. Yeah. So we just need to keep plugging away. I don't know about you, Matt. A lot of people are talking about like breaking records and points records. For me, that would be nice. That would be nice, but. Do you know what promotion is? I don't care if we break a record or however we get into that top 2. That's all that really matters for me. Get back in the Championship next season and then start to progress as a club from there.
I feel like promotion is the priority and a points record is the cherry on top of the cake in which we need to get back into the Championship. That's as simple as it is for me. I don't actually care whether we came second, really. I'd love to go up as champions, but as long as we're playing Championship football next season, I don't actually care where we finish. And it's looking good, and I think we will finish the season as champions. And I'm gonna put my neck on the line, even though we've tried to be a little bit humble. I think we will break the points record.
Okay. Very good. So, well, that's your opinion. That's absolutely.
And also,
fine.
we're very humble on this podcast. Ed. We respect everyone, but I've just got a feeling things are good. Our defense is absolutely outstanding. We keep ticking these games out. We'll be 2 games towards the end, won't we? And we're still saying the same things. And things are looking good. And any final thoughts, Dad, before we close?
No, I was just really pleased. I think I didn't come into the game worried or anxious because I don't feel that any longer against any opposition because I think we're capable of beating anybody. But I did expect more of a challenge in this game. I know that the sending off changed the circumstances of the game, but it was nice to come away relieved with 3 points against what is a real good informed playoff contending team, and just to extend our lead at the top. So for me, it was fantastic. I'm really looking forward to Wycombe now.
Big game.
Yeah.
I think if we win that really is a good sign, isn't it, moving forward?
Yeah.
But as always, Birmingham City supporters, we would love to hear from you. Please let us know your thoughts in the comments section below. Maybe you're an Orient fan. Maybe you watched the pre-video. Maybe you've tuned in for the first time. Let us know your thoughts as well. Let us know your opinion on the red card. I know there's a bit of a mixed opinion on social media, but as always, we would love to hear from you. If you like this video specifically, please don't forget to give us a thumbs up and check us out on our social media channels. We have an X page, we have an Instagram page, and you can also listen to us and watch us over on Spotify if you like that platform as well. And if you haven't already, don't forget to press that big red subscribe button so you don't miss any future content all about Birmingham City. And myself and Dad will see you on the next one.